Pat Forde from Sports Illustrated, senior writer. Pat, thanks for joining us. Let me start with the Big Ten. What changed in the last, month, 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things, Dan. I mean, you start with tangible advances in rapid testing and everything that could do for you. And I think that really quite ironically, the Pac-12 commissioner, Larry Scott, when he announced that the Pac-12 had an agreement with Quidel for rapid daily testing, all of a sudden the Big Ten's like, hey, we'll go get that and we'll do it faster. And I think that was the big thing. But there's no doubt that watching everyone else play football and hearing the outcry that was associated with that, watching the NFL, watching other college teams, watching high school teams play, and everybody saying, why aren't we playing? That I think that just kind of wore down the resistances of the Big Ten presidents.
What could go wrong here?
Yeah, well, plenty. For one thing, there is a gap between when rapid daily testing is supposed to start and when practice is ramping up, at least 2 weeks here. So you may see a higher degree of positives there. However, they are not starting games until October 23rd, 24th. So there is a gap there, a bit of a cushion there where those people, if you do have spikes, could be okay by the time they start kickoff. But just in general, I think you're going to be looking at a little bit of campus unrest in some of these places where they're like, hey, we're going to these incredible efforts for the football players. What about the regular students? What are we doing for them in terms of testing and safety for them?
I know it was announced that it was a unanimous vote. I would love to get the backstory. I'm trying to get the backstory of how much arm twisting went on because I was told Rutgers and Northwestern were not, they went kicking and screaming. And I'm sure there's probably a couple other schools here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that there were probably at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 schools that were not on board. Rutgers the most obvious. I mean, the president came out all of a week earlier and said, basically, what are we doing here? Northwestern, their president deserves an Academy Award if he was not on board, because what he had to say on the conference call yesterday was basically that, yes, I'm okay with all of this. And in the background, he's probably rolling his eyes significantly.
Well, now what's this mean for the Pac-12? They're on the clock.
Sure are. And it's amazing, though, boy. I mean, like once a domino falls, everybody else starts getting in position to make the next domino fall. Pac-12 presidents meeting on Friday, I think, to see if they can get a consensus to go ahead and move forward with formalized practices, getting the politicians in California and in Oregon, the states that have been the most restricted, to lift some of the restrictions and allow 11-on-11 practices. Yeah, that came yesterday. That was big. And so now you try to get the whole league on board. And, the last I heard, they're trying to shoot for a Halloween kickoff and see how many games they can get in.
And you got the Mountain West. Like, what are the odds that the Mountain West comes back, but the Pac-12 does not come back?
I don't think that'll happen. I think that those two will probably both do the same thing. A lot of schools in the same states there. The California schools are up against it as well in the Mountain West. And, the one other factor here, those wildfires have made life very difficult out there. I've got a daughter swimming at Stanford. They haven't been able to get in the pool for a week because of the air quality. You're not going to be able to practice football while the air quality's like that either. So there's a lot of other considerations that still have to go into this.
What did you make of Ed Orgeron, LSU head coach, saying basically all my players have, tested positive?
Yeah. That was Coach O being perhaps more forthright and less intelligent than he should be on both instances. I don't think there's any doubt that there are coaches out there that have that mentality of like, let's just get our own little herd immunity and go for it. But from a public health standpoint, if you're like the public health officials in Baton Rouge, you got to be just banging your head against the wall saying, what is this guy doing?
As far as on the field here, is Clemson by far and away the team to watch out for?
That we've seen play so far? Yeah, I think so. I was at Notre Dame's game against Duke, and they were okay. It was first game. Again, yeah, it's going to take a while to really figure out who's got what because it's been such a ridiculous offseason. But on paper, and I think from what they showed for 3 quarters on Saturday, Clemson definitely is the team. Now we'll see starting October 23rd, 24th, what Ohio State looks like. Before that, on September 26th, we'll start seeing what Alabama looks like, Georgia looks like, but Clemson right now, yes.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering about this if you're playing less games. And I was told by a source that Ohio State is hoping to pass the sight test, that the voters are going to look and go, they didn't play as many games, but they look like they're a Final Four team. I think that's the hope for the Big Ten, that Ohio State, if they're the ones that get in.
Absolutely. This is going to be the most subjective college football playoff committee rankings ever, because you're going to have exactly that. You're going to have think about this. When Ohio State finally kicks off, Alabama will have played like 4 or 5 games. Clemson will have played like 7, or 6. You're going to be trying to look at those teams and say, and compare this team over here and to decide who should be ahead of whom. It's going to be the most controversial, the most messy, and the most subjective playoff rankings ever.
Give me the team that could crash the party.
Boy, I like Oklahoma State from that standpoint. They have a ton of talent. Mike Gundy was completely off his rocker in the offseason, but if he hasn't lost his locker room, they've got the number 1 returning rusher in the country, Chuba Hubbard, a 2,000-yard guy. They've got a great receiver, Tylan Wallace, who missed most of last year with a knee injury. They've got a returning quarterback with experience, and they've got 10 starters back on defense. I think they could challenge Oklahoma, and if they, the winner of the Big 12 figures to probably get a spot, depending what happens in these other leagues.
I don't know how many times you saw Lamar Jackson play. You're in Louisville, but there were concerns with Teddy Bridgewater, and then there were concerns with Lamar Jackson. How surprised are you with Lamar Jackson's success?
So yes and no. You want to talk about intangibles. That guy, a leader, a team first guy, fearless, tough, dedicated. He had all of those. And then you add the athleticism. It's just, outrageous. That level of athlete that even in the NFL is rare. I was not sure he had necessarily command of the offense, pocket passing, but he's shown that excellently so far. So I'm really happy for him to see it, because this is a great guy and a great team leader. So what he's doing has been outstanding. Yeah,
it's a great story as well. Are you off to any place this weekend?
I'm not. The schedule's lousy, so I will be watching from home and monitoring all developments.
All right. Well, thank you, Pat, as always. Great stuff throughout this whole process there. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dan.
That's Pat Forde. By the way, turned 56 yesterday. Happy birthday, Pat. Happy birthday.